The city never collapses in an instant. It bleeds out slowly. Streetlights fail one district at a time. Sirens fade, not because danger is gone, but because no one is left to answer the call. People run for gear, for tools, for anything expensive enough to make them feel safe. That's where they fail. Because survival in an urban breakdown has nothing to do with what you buy. It has everything to do with what you notice, what you ignore, and how fast you can switch from civilian instinct to tactical logic. You're not here for comfort. You're here to learn how to move, think, and act like someone who refuses to become prey. Gear breaks. Batteries die. Tools get stolen. But the 22 tricks you're about to absorb stay with you, even when you have nothing left but your breath and whatever you can pull from the ruins around you. Everything you think you know about survival in a city becomes a liability when the structure dissolves. Elevators become traps. Cars become coffins. Crowds become hunting grounds. Buildings turn into funnels that shove you straight into someone else's line of fire. And while civilians panic and gear collectors argue over what equipment is best, the few who know how to think tactically are already gone, disappearing into angles nobody else is smart enough to use. You're going to strip away the idea that survival is about strength, speed, or expensive equipment. Your real weapon is precision, silence, controlled awareness, and the ability to exploit the city itself, its shadows, its noise, its blind corners, its forgotten architecture, to turn the environment into something that works for you, not against you. Most people try to fight the city. You won't. You'll merge with it. You'll learn to move through it without being seen, heard, tracked, or predicted. You'll learn how to collect resources without exposing yourself, how to disappear in plain sight, how to break contact without running, and how to turn ordinary objects into force multipliers when every store shelf has already been emptied. This is not theory. This is not entertainment. This is tactical conditioning. By the time the last trick is done, you'll operate differently, colder, quieter, more deliberate. You'll stop acting like someone trying to survive and start acting like someone who cannot be caught. Welcome to urban survival without illusions. Trick 1. Shadow positioning. You start by mastering the one skill that makes every predator fail: the ability to exist on the edge of visibility. Shadow positioning isn't about hiding in darkness. It's about exploiting the places where light loses confidence. Every building, every alley, every stairwell has transitional zones where illumination falls apart. You don't step fully into shadow. You float along its perimeter. At that border, your outline blurs, your movement becomes ambiguous, and the human eye, wired to focus on clarity, slides past you. You stay low, angled, and never in the center of a walkway. When you choose the right shadow line, you're not just unseen, you're unregistered. Trick 2. Light signature manipulation. Once you control shadows, you manipulate light, not with equipment, just awareness. You study every cone, every spill, every reflection thrown by a city that never sleeps, even in collapse. Light exposes the untrained, but it can also erase you when used correctly. Instead of cutting straight across brightness, you drift diagonally through the weakest part of the beam. You move at a steady pace, smooth, controlled, forgettable. Sharp motion attracts attention. Stable motion gets ignored. When crossing a harsh light zone is unavoidable, you let a stronger source behind you, headlights, neon signs, a burning storefront, wash out your silhouette. You don't fight the light. You let it drown you. Trick 3. Vanish in plain sight method. Crowds become chaos when society fractures, But chaos is camouflage when you understand how to dissolve inside it. You don't blend socially, you blend behaviorally. You align your pace with the average rhythm around you. You let your posture loosen, your breathing slow. You avoid making micro-adjustments that signal alertness. Civilians moving through panic have a pattern: scattered, emotional, unfocused. You match the tempo without matching the fear. You let your peripherals do the tracking while your eyes never lock onto a threat long enough to betray recognition. In a moving crowd, you become nothing more than an unimportant face that no one remembers long enough to target. Trick 4. Urban camouflage via texture. The city is a collage of surfaces: fractured concrete, rusted metal, faded paint, uneven brick. Urban camouflage is not about dressing like the environment, it's about behaving like it. When a wall is static, you stay still. When a surface is jagged, your movements fragment. When an alley is cluttered, your steps become irregular, absorbing into the environment's noise rather than contrasting with it. You mimic texture, not color. This makes the eye dismiss you the same way it dismisses debris, damaged walls, and abandoned structures. You become something the brain labels as irrelevant, something that belongs, something it will not inspect twice. Trick 5. Improvised noise discipline survival in a collapsing city begins with one truth: sound kills faster than bullets. You don't need suppressors or high-end tactical gear to disappear acoustically. You only need control. Noise discipline starts with your footsteps. Hard floors demand soft landings. Loose debris demands slow pressure instead of quick impact. You scan the ground 3 steps ahead, choosing surfaces that won't betray you. Grime over tile, fabric over metal, dust over stone. Your clothing shifts from liability to asset when you tighten loose fabric, secure zippers with tape, and eliminate anything that rattles. You train your breathing to stay low and even, because panic breath echoes in hallways more clearly than footsteps. A silent operator isn't someone who moves quietly. It's someone who removes every sound the environment expects to hear. Trick 6. Directional listening grid. When technology fails, your ears become surveillance equipment. The directional listening grid turns every wall, pipe, archway, and window frame into an amplifier. You don't just listen forward, you build a 3-dimensional audio map. You angle your head toward reflective surfaces that bounce sound back at you. You use narrow corridors to catch footsteps long before the person is visible. You stop near corners not to peek, but to let the environment whisper what's coming. Humans leak information when they move: pacing, breathing, friction, weight distribution. When you listen correctly, you hear intention before you see motion. You hear danger before it exists in your visual field. And you act before anyone realizes you were aware. Trick 7. Silent alerts with common objects. You don't need perimeter alarms or motion sensors. You build silent alert lines from whatever the city gives you. A single bottle placed at a precise angle becomes a vibration detector. When someone touches the door it rests against. A thin thread across a hallway, connected to something light enough to shift with the smallest disturbance, becomes an early warning system. Paper, dust, loose foil, plastic scraps, everything becomes a sensor when positioned correctly. You're not trying to trap anyone. You're trying to know before they know you know. In a city where walls are thin, doors are broken, and windows are exposed, these improvised alerts give you the one advantage no tactical device can guarantee: time. Trick 8. Micro-cover sound positioning. Noise isn't just something you avoid, it's something you shape. Micro-cover sound. Positioning uses tiny objects to manipulate how sound travels, especially in narrow passages. A tilted board redirects echo. A loose cloth absorbs it. A small barrier placed at the right angle breaks up acoustic direction and hides your approach. This technique turns the city's clutter into your ally. You move through environments that betray others because you modify the sound architecture on the fly. Even when someone hears you coming, they hear the wrong direction, the wrong distance, the wrong size. You're no longer a person. They hear a misinterpretation. And misinterpretation keeps you alive. Trick 9. Urban scent control. Most people never consider scent as a threat vector, but in a collapsed city, proximity becomes tighter, ventilation becomes weaker, and human predators learn to track by any signal you give them. Urban scent control starts with eliminating the chemical signature that gives away stress, fear, and movement. You keep your body dry because moisture amplifies odor. You avoid strong soaps, lotions, or perfumes, anything that lingers in the air long after you move. You use neutralizers made from crushed charcoal, dust, or even dry soil to mute your presence. You let airflow work for you, moving against drafts instead of with them. When your scent footprint fades, ambushers lose the ability to anticipate your arrival, and you gain the space needed to control the encounter. Trick 10. Heat signature reduction. Infrared devices aren't rare anymore. Cheap drones, handheld imagers, and even repurposed security cameras can identify a body by temperature alone. You don't need thermal blankets to counter them. You need discipline. You reduce heat output by minimizing unnecessary exertion before crossing exposed zones. You use cold surfaces, metal doors, tiled walls, concrete pillars, to siphon heat from your body. You break your outline by crouching behind objects that confuse thermal silhouettes, like pipes or machinery still radiating stored warmth. Heat signature reduction isn't about turning invisible. It's about becoming just anomalous enough that a quick scan mistakes you for environmental noise. And in a world where decisions are made in seconds, being noise instead of a target is all you need. Trick 11. Trash field recon. A neighborhood's trash reveals more than its people. In collapse, garbage becomes intelligence. You scan what others leave behind to determine population density, food scarcity, water access, and recent human activity. Fresh wrappers mean a group passed recently. Crushed cans signal movement patterns. Mixed household waste on walkways reveals forced evacuations or panic. Even abandoned bags tell you whether someone left willingly or under pressure. You read trash like tracks in the wild. And because no one believes their garbage matters, this information remains completely unguarded. When you can interpret a city's trash field, you predict where people cluster, where conflicts form, and where opportunities hide. You stop guessing and start navigating with tactical accuracy. Trick 12. Bottleneck control cities trap people without them realizing it. Hallways, staircases, narrow alleys, one-way paths. These are bottlenecks, natural choke points where predators hunt. Bottleneck control teaches you to use these same structures, not just to avoid danger, but to command space. You never step into the center of a bottleneck. You take the high ground if stairs are present, or the outside wall if elevators are open. You use angles to force any approaching threat into single-file movement, killing their ability to swarm. You anticipate ambushes by checking overhead lines, recessed corners, and blind bends before entering any narrow channel. And when you need escape routes, you choose paths with multiple exit angles instead of relying on speed alone. A person who understands bottlenecks doesn't outrun danger. They shape the battlefield so danger never reaches them cleanly. Trick 13. Micro-escape techniques. Urban conflict rarely looks like movie combat. It's fast, sloppy, close range, and dominated by grabs, clamps, and sudden pressure. Micro-escape techniques are designed for that exact reality. You don't overpower anyone. You break structure. When a hand clamps your wrist, you don't yank. You rotate along the thumb line, the weakest point in any grip. When someone pins your arm, you drop your body weight instead of pulling back, forcing their leverage to collapse. If you're pushed against a wall, you pivot your hips first, not your shoulders, turning your body into a blade instead of a flat surface. These movements are tiny, precise, and executed in less than a second. A larger opponent expects resistance. They don't expect angles that make their strength irrelevant. The moment their hold loosens, even slightly, you create space, and space is survival. Trick 14. Improvised shields. Tactical shields are rare. Improvised shields are everywhere. You don't look for protection. You convert the environment into it. A backpack becomes a forearm barricade when held tight against the body. A metal tray, a broken door, a drawer front, even a plastic bin can absorb impact, block a strike, or intercept a blade for one critical second. You choose objects that cover vital lines: neck, chest, abdomen. You don't hold them out. You keep them close, letting incoming force disperse across the surface. When used correctly, an improvised shield doesn't slow you down. It becomes a mobile barrier that shifts your opponent's targeting and buys you the moment you need to move, escape, or counter. The city is full of armor. You simply learn to recognize it. Trick 15. Everyday weaponization. When society collapses, the most dangerous weapons aren't guns or knives. They're ordinary objects wielded with intent. Everyday weaponization begins with identifying items that amplify force. Pens, screwdrivers, keys, metal water bottles, tool handles, broken tiles, even sturdy clothing clips. You don't brandish them. You keep them concealed until the moment of necessity. Your goal is not sustained combat, but decisive interruption. A short jab to a pressure point, a redirected strike to the hand gripping a weapon, a sudden impact to a joint. Small motions that create imbalance and force hesitation. You never commit to a fight. You create an opening, then disappear. In the urban collapse, victory is not domination. Victory is escape. And the tools that grant escape are already in your pockets, your bag, or within arm's reach at all times. Trick 16. Power hack survival. When the grid dies, most people lose more than electricity. They lose orientation. They lose safety. They lose options. Power hack survival teaches you to extract advantage from what still works, even when the city is failing. You begin by identifying residual power sources: emergency lighting circuits, elevator machine rooms, generator hums, solar-fed security panels, any outlet tied to backup infrastructure. You don't attempt repairs. You tap opportunity. A dim emergency bulb reveals foot traffic patterns. A humming wall panel tells you which buildings still have active systems and which ones draw desperate survivors. Even a dying battery becomes leverage when paired with low-draw devices like radios or LED strips. You're not trying to revive the grid. You're using its dying heartbeat to navigate, communicate, or stay hidden while others panic in the dark. Trick 17. Strategic water harvesting. In an urban collapse, water doesn't vanish, it relocates. Your task is to know where it collects. Strategic water harvesting means learning to take water from non-obvious but consistently replenished sources. Rooftop runoffs become clean collectors after the first seconds of rainfall wash away contaminants. Condensation on metal panels provides small but reliable hydration when every drop counts. Drip points in parking structures capture groundwater seepage filtered through concrete. Even air conditioning units hold reservoirs of condensed moisture, safe once boiled or filtered. You avoid stagnant sources, avoid pipes open to sewage cross-flow, avoid anything with visible oil or chemical sheen. You train your eyes to detect movement, shine, flow, and shadow where liquid gathers. In collapse, food can be rationed, water cannot, and the city hides more than it reveals. Trick 18. Food bypass technique. Hunger breaks decision-making before it breaks the body. The food bypass technique exists so you can move, think, and operate even when edible resources disappear. You're not replacing food. You're bypassing the need for it. You regulate blood sugar by consuming small, high-impact substances the city still offers. Sugar packets, electrolyte powders, honey remnants, even syrup from abandoned drink machines. These provide short bursts of stability when nutrition is unavailable. You manage your metabolism by stabilizing breathing, reducing exertion spikes, and spacing movement into controlled intervals. You don't let your body drop into the panic phase of hunger. Instead, you give it minimal but strategic input, just enough to keep your focus razor sharp and your mobility intact. Survival isn't about eating. It's about staying functional until extraction, relocation, or opportunity arrives. Trick 19. Route fragmentation. In a collapsing city, your path is your signature. If someone can predict where you're going, they don't need speed or strength. They only need position. Route fragmentation destroys that advantage. Instead of traveling in a single continuous line, you break your movement into unpredictable segments. You change direction at intervals that have nothing to do with emotion or panic, only logic. You take stairwells instead of elevators, rooftops instead of streets, alley connectors instead of main corridors. You move in L patterns, U-turns, staggered diagonals, anything that fractures the tracking logic of someone following you. You never let your trajectory stay consistent long enough to form a pattern. When they think you're heading north, you're already cutting east. And when they commit to pursuit, they're chasing a ghost, not a path. Trick 20. Information footprint reduction. In the modern city, you leave a trail even when you think you're invisible. Doors you touch, dust you disturb, trash you compress, people you walk past. Every movement leaks information unless you control it. Information footprint reduction teaches you to leave nothing behind. No physical cues, no behavioral signals, no movement patterns. You close doors gently to avoid imprint marks. You step in pre-disturbed areas to avoid creating new footprints. You adjust your body language so no one can profile your urgency. When questioned or observed, you reveal nothing. No direction, no intent, no timeline. Your face stays neutral, your pace steady, your actions forgettable. A person who leaves no informational residue cannot be pursued, predicted, or profiled. You're not just hidden, you're untraceable. Trick 21. Predictive path control. The strongest form of movement intelligence isn't avoiding danger. It's making danger arrive where you were, not where you are. Predictive path control is the art of placing your routes in ways that exploit human assumption. You understand how people choose lines of pursuit, straight paths, open corridors, high visibility areas. So you abandon those entirely. You select routes that force anyone following you into noisy terrain, exposed choke points, dead corners, or areas with poor lighting. You don't run. You let the city slow them, confuse them, isolate them. Every turn you take is chosen to make someone else's route harder, louder, longer, or more dangerous than yours. If they try to intercept, they arrive late. If they try to flank, they move into blind zones you've already evaluated. You aren't escaping your environment. You're shaping it into a maze that only you understand. Trick 22. Psychological disengagement. Survival in the city doesn't collapse because of bullets or blades. It collapses because of emotion. Fear speeds your pulse. Anger narrows your decisions. Panic kills your awareness before any enemy gets close. Psychological disengagement is the discipline of shutting all that off. You separate reaction from action. When chaos erupts, you do not feel, you calculate. Your breathing drops into a steady cadence that suppresses adrenaline. Your eyes stop darting and start scanning in structured sweeps. You let the noise of the environment pass through you without attaching meaning to it. You operate like a system, not a civilian. When everyone else is overwhelmed by stimuli, you become the one calm point in the storm, and calm is what keeps you alive. A disengaged mind is not cold because it lacks emotion. It's cold because it refuses to negotiate with danger. Once your emotions are neutralized, you gain the ability to read people with precision. This layer teaches you to judge intent before intent becomes action. You watch weight distribution. Someone leaning forward is preparing to move. Someone tightening their jaw is preparing to confront. Someone adjusting clothing may be reaching for a concealed object. You evaluate eye placement. Predators look where they want you. Attackers look where they plan to move. Survivors look for exits. You listen not for words, but for cadence, hesitation, and breath control. People reveal their next decision long before they execute it. When you interpret these microsignals, you take away their advantage. They no longer surprise you. They no longer dictate the timeline. You act before their danger becomes real. Not every threat requires force. Many can be neutralized before they manifest if you redirect the emotional temperature of the encounter. Aggression. Deflection is not submission. It's strategic interruption. You deny the attacker the friction they expect. You project indifference instead of fear, clarity instead of confusion. You answer tension with slowness, controlled posture, and minimal movement. Predators expect panic. They expect compliance. They expect confrontation. What they don't expect is neutrality. When someone cannot read your emotional state, their threat decision becomes unstable. That instability buys you the seconds you need to reposition, to exit, or to strike with precision if no other choice remains. You don't diffuse aggression. You disarm its foundation. You've reached the point where gear doesn't matter, where luck doesn't matter, where fear no longer dictates your movement. The Urban Ghost Protocol ties every skill you've learned into a single operating philosophy. You will exist in the city without being tracked, targeted, or trapped. You stop thinking like a survivor and start thinking like a presence the collapsed world cannot pin down. A ghost is not invisible. It's unreadable. It's a shape the city registers but never understands. A pattern no predator can decode. A rhythm no ambusher can sync with. You begin by removing the concept of routine. Ghosts have no predictable hour, no predictable route, no predictable response. You don't return to the same shelter twice in a row. You don't store supplies in one place. You never approach a resource from the same angle. Every action becomes a rotating code. When others rely on habit, you rely on variation. When the city tracks them, the city loses track of you by design. Then you fuse mobility with silence. Shadows become corridors, not hiding spots. Light becomes a veil, not a threat. Every step you take is based on awareness, not urgency. You control your pace so thoroughly that the city forgets to react to you. People, noise, chaos, alarms, these things disrupt civilians, but they don't touch you. You absorb them, move through them, and leave nothing behind that can be traced. The environment stops being an obstacle and becomes a shield you shape with every choice. Your mind stays cold. You never escalate emotion. You never mirror the panic around you. Ghost psychology is simple. Emotion exposes you. Neutrality protects you. When others shout, you stay silent. When others argue, you analyze. When others freeze, you flow. You never let another person's fear, anger, or desperation steer your reactions. Mental stillness becomes your armor, sharper than body plates and harder than glass. And when conflict becomes unavoidable, you don't meet it head-on. You bypass it. You cut angles. You step out of the timeline. You redirect aggression before it forms. You let threats overextend into empty space while you remain one breath ahead. A ghost's greatest advantage is that their enemy always strikes where they are not. By the time the city fully collapses, most survivors become predictable, tired, hungry, frantic, overwhelmed, but not you. You're built on precision. You're built on discipline. You're built on the 22 tricks that turn an ordinary human into an operator who refuses to be caught, cornered, or read. You don't survive the city. You outmaneuver it. You outthink it. You outlast it. When others move loudly, you shift silently. When others show fear, you show nothing. When others cling to gear, you rely on skill. That's why you remain standing long after the unprepared fall. You're no longer part of the environment. You're the anomaly it can't predict. You're the silhouette it can't isolate. You're the ghost it can never capture.